Life After 70: The Art of Living with Purpose, Peace, and Reflection. Life after 70 is a time for reflection, growth, and deeper understanding. In this heartfelt reflection, I share personal insights gained over the years, offering a fresh perspective on relationships, time, and personal fulfillment. From embracing the wisdom that comes with age to prioritizing meaningful relationships over busy schedules, this essay explores the profound shifts in priorities that occur as we age. With authenticity and grace, it highlights how life after 70 is not about the quantity of experiences, but about the quality of moments that bring true happiness and peace. Join us as we explore the richness of a fulfilling life after 70, where every day is an opportunity to appreciate what truly matters. Time is the greatest gift. Don't let it slip away. When I was younger, I believed time was endless. Each day felt like another opportunity to get things done, to chase goals, to keep up with the demands of life. I filled my days with work, social commitments, and an endless to-do list, all while convincing myself that there would always be more time tomorrow. I spent countless hours in conversations that went nowhere, in relationships that weren't truly fulfilling, and in activities that never brought me real joy. It felt like the natural way of living, a rush from one moment to the next, never really stopping to appreciate what was happening right in front of me. But as I've grown older, something has changed. At 70, I've come to realize that time isn't the endless river I once thought it was. It's finite. Every day that passes is one I won't get back, and I've learned to look at time differently. Instead of rushing through life or trying to fill every minute with something productive or social, I now see each moment as a precious gift. The time I have left is too valuable to waste on things that don't matter. One of the first things I've learned is that time can never be replaced. When I was young, I took time for granted. I thought there would always be more of it. But now, I see each new day as a gift, one that I can't get back once it's gone. This realization has reshaped how I spend my time and how I prioritize what matters most. I no longer feel the need to do it all. I've stopped overscheduling myself or saying yes to every invitation or request that comes my way. I used to think that if I wasn't always present at every social gathering or meeting, I'd be letting people down or missing out. But as I've aged, I've come to understand that my time is better spent on things that truly bring me joy, peace, and meaning. Instead of running from one event to the next, I've learned the value of simply being. I've learned the beauty of quiet moments, sitting with a cup of coffee in the morning, watching the sun rise, listening to the birds outside my window. I savor these moments because I know that they won't last forever, and I don't want to miss them. I've also learned that it's okay to say no. In my younger years, I rarely turned down invitations or requests for help, even if it meant stretching myself too thin. I thought saying no was selfish or inconsiderate. But now, I realize that saying no isn't about being rude or rejecting others. It's about protecting my own time and energy. It's about choosing what's important and knowing my limits. I've become more intentional about where I spend my time and with whom I spend it. I choose to be with people who lift me up, who bring positivity into my life. And I've learned that it's perfectly okay to walk away from situations or relationships that drain me. The truth is, time has a way of slipping away when you're not paying attention. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking there will always be more time, but the older I get, the more I realize how quickly it passes. I can no longer afford to waste a single moment on things that don't add value to my life. That doesn't mean I have to be busy every second of the day. Far from it. What it means is that I'm more selective with my time. I choose to spend it on things that nourish my soul, like reading a good book, taking a walk, or having a deep conversation with someone I care about. Looking back, I realized that many of the things I thought were important when I was younger really weren't. I used to think that being busy and active meant I was living life to its fullest. But now, I know that it's not about how much you do, but how much you truly experience. I've found joy in slowing down, in being present, in appreciating the little things. I don't feel the need to fill every minute with activity or achievement. Instead, I savor the quiet moments, the peaceful times, the ones that don't require anything but my attention and gratitude. As I reflect on my life, I see how much time I spent chasing after things that didn't bring me real happiness, trying to please people who didn't truly care about me, committing to obligations that drained me, and getting caught up in drama that didn't matter. These are the things I regret. But I don't let those regrets weigh me down. They've taught me valuable lessons about what matters and what doesn't. And now, I use that wisdom to guide how I live today. I've learned that the quality of time is far more important than the quantity. I don't need a packed schedule or endless social obligations to feel fulfilled. Instead, I focus on what brings me peace and contentment. I've learned that relationships built on mutual respect and understanding are the ones that matter. I no longer feel the need to maintain superficial connections or go through the motions of socializing just to avoid being alone. I've learned to embrace solitude, to enjoy my own company, and to appreciate the people who truly understand me. Time is precious, and I've come to understand that it isn't something to be taken lightly. The older I get, the more I realize how fleeting it is, and the more I strive to make every moment count. I no longer take time for granted. Instead, I cherish it every morning, every sunset, every laugh, every quiet afternoon. These are the moments that make life worth living. And now, I make sure to savor them fully. At 70, I've learned that life is not about rushing through it or trying to do everything. It's about being present in the moment, appreciating what's right in front of me, and letting go of the things that don't truly matter. Time, after all, is the one thing we can never get back. And I plan to use the time I have left to live fully, to love deeply, and to find joy in the simple things. Time is indeed the greatest gift, and I don't intend to waste a single moment of it. The value of relationships, letting go of the ones that don't serve you. As I look back over my life, one of the most profound realizations I've had is just how much relationships shape who we are and how we experience the world. In my younger years, I spent so much time trying to please everyone, maintaining friendships and connections out of a sense of duty or fear of being alone. I thought that if I wasn't always there for others, I would lose their affection, respect, or attention. But as I've gotten older, I've come to understand something important. Not all relationships are meant to last forever, and that's okay. In fact, it's essential to embrace this truth if you want to live a peaceful and fulfilled life. In my youth, I was the person who remembered everyone's birthday, who showed up to every event, and who tried to keep everyone around me happy. I believed that being there for others, no matter what, was a sign of being a good friend, partner, or family member. I invested my time and energy into relationships without asking myself if they were nourishing or reciprocated. But over time, I learned that this constant giving without receiving began to take a toll on me. I found myself drained, emotionally exhausted, and often disappointed by people who didn't appreciate my efforts as I had hoped. The older I get, the more I realize that true friendships and relationships aren't about quantity, they're about quality. It's not about how many people you know, but how deeply you connect with them. And more importantly, it's about whether those connections are mutual, based on respect, trust, and genuine care. I've learned to be far more selective about who I invest my time and energy in. Life has a way of naturally pruning the branches of our social tree. People move away, life changes, or they simply drift apart. Some relationships fade over time, others end abruptly, sometimes with heartbreak, sometimes with little more than a quiet distance growing between you. In my younger years, I used to take these losses personally. I wondered what I could have done differently, how I could have held on to a friendship or family bond. I would question myself, feeling guilty for letting go or for not fighting harder to preserve a connection. But now, I understand something vital. Life pulls us all in different directions, and some people are meant to be in our lives for only a season, a reason, or a lifetime. As I've aged, I've learned that it's okay to let go of relationships that no longer serve me. I don't need to hold on to people out of obligation or fear of being alone. I've become more comfortable with the idea that some relationships simply aren't meant to last. And that doesn't make them any less valuable. It just means that our paths have diverged. This understanding has brought me peace. I've also come to realize that I've changed over the years. My priorities, my values, and my expectations from relationships have evolved. What I needed at 30, 40, or even 60 isn't necessarily what I need now at 70. At this stage in my life, I value simplicity, kindness, and authenticity more than ever before. I don't have the patience for drama or for relationships that feel one-sided or transactional. I've learned that true friendship isn't about how much someone can do for me, but how much they bring to my life simply by being who they are. One of the hardest lessons I've learned is that trust, once broken, is incredibly difficult to rebuild. Over the years, I've been let down by people I never expected to hurt me. A friend who became more interested in what I could do for them than in who I was, a business partner who prioritized their own gain over our shared goals, and even family members who distanced themselves for reasons I may never fully understand. These betrayals left me with scars, but they also taught me how to set boundaries and recognize red flags. They taught me the importance of protecting myself, of not letting people take advantage of my kindness or time. I've learned to surround myself with people who lift me up, who add value to my life, not those who drain me or take from me without giving anything in return. It's not that I'm cold or unwilling to help others, but I've come to understand the importance of reciprocity in relationships. I've realized that I deserve relationships that make me feel loved, appreciated, and understood. And I've learned not to feel guilty about walking away from relationships that don't provide these things. Yet, even with these lessons, there are moments when I feel a twinge of nostalgia for the relationships that have faded. A friend who was once like a sibling but whom I haven't spoken to in years. A family member whose life has taken a different direction, leaving us far apart, both emotionally and physically. There's a bittersweet quality to looking back on those connections. They were once an important part of my life, and the memories we shared hold deep meaning. But I also understand now that relationships change, and we change too. It's not always a tragedy, it's simply part of the natural course of life. Sometimes, I look back on the friendships and relationships I invested so much in, and I realize that the most important thing I gained from them wasn't the time we spent together, but the lessons they taught me. They taught me about love, about trust, about vulnerability, and about letting go. They taught me about the importance of maintaining my own boundaries, of knowing when to fight for a relationship and when to let it go. And most importantly, they taught me that I am worthy of being surrounded by people who truly care about me, not just in the good times but also through life's challenges. So now, at this stage in my life, I choose to invest in the relationships that bring me peace, joy, and fulfillment. I don't have time for superficial friendships or relationships that feel like a burden. Instead, I focus on the people who show up for me, who truly understand me, and who make me feel seen and valued. These are the connections that matter most. And I've learned that it's okay to say goodbye to the ones that no longer serve me, with no guilt, no regret, only gratitude for the lessons they gave me. Letting go of relationships that no longer serve you isn't easy, but it's one of the most freeing and empowering things you can do. It's about making space for the relationships that truly matter, and allowing yourself to experience the love and joy that come with being surrounded by people who truly care. It's never too late to choose the relationships that nourish your soul, and that's the gift of getting older. The complexity of trust, a delicate balance. As I've grown older, one of the most significant changes I've noticed in myself is the way I view trust. When I was younger, trust came easily, almost effortlessly. I believed in people, in their goodness, and in their intentions. I gave my heart freely, without hesitation, because I truly believed that people were generally kind and honest. But as the years have gone by, and I've faced more of life's challenges and disappointments, I've come to realize that trust is not something to be taken for granted. In fact, it's become one of the most delicate and precious things I have. Trust has always been an integral part of my relationships. When you're young, you don't think twice about who to trust. It's almost instinctual. You form bonds without a second thought, assuming that your friends, family, and colleagues have your best interests at heart. But as the years accumulate, you begin to realize that not everyone will treat you the way you treat them. People change, situations evolve, and life's twists and turns can sometimes lead to broken promises, unspoken words, or actions that leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about someone. I can remember the first time I felt truly betrayed. It wasn't something that happened overnight, but it was a gradual erosion of trust, like a slow crack in a once solid foundation. There was a friend, someone I thought I would grow old with, sharing memories, supporting each other, and laughing about the silly things we used to do. But over time, I realized that the friendship had become one-sided. I was the one always giving, always checking in, always supporting. And yet, when I needed a shoulder to lean on, that person wasn't there. Slowly, the realization dawned that I had been investing in someone who didn't share the same level of care or commitment. That hurt more than I can put into words. It was a hard lesson to learn, but it was also an important one. I came to understand that not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay forever. Some relationships are meant to teach us something, and once that lesson is learned, it's time to move on. I also learned that trust isn't just about the other person, it's about trusting myself. Trusting my own instincts, trusting my judgment, and trusting that I have the strength to walk away from situations or people that no longer serve me. As I got older, I became more cautious about whom I allowed into my life. It's not that I stopped trusting altogether, it's just that I started to trust more wisely. I became more selective about the people I chose to let into my inner circle. The kind of person I once would have readily embraced without question, I now observe with a more discerning eye. What are their intentions? Are they being honest with me? Can I rely on them when things get tough? These are questions I never used to ask, but now, they're always in the back of my mind. But caution doesn't mean closing myself off. It doesn't mean shutting the door to new connections or becoming bitter about past hurts. It means striking a balance. I've learned that there's nothing wrong with being open to new friendships, but I approach them with a healthy dose of realism. I know now that trust has to be earned, not freely given. I've learned to take my time, to observe how people behave and how they treat others. Actions speak louder than words, and if someone truly cares for me, they will show it over time. One of the biggest realizations I've had about trust is that it's a two-way street. In the past, I was often the one who gave trust freely, only to be hurt when it wasn't reciprocated. But I've learned that for trust to flourish, it has to be mutual. It's not enough for one person to trust. Both parties must feel safe enough to be vulnerable with each other. Trust requires communication, understanding, and respect. It's not just about keeping secrets or avoiding betrayal. It's about showing up for each other in the quiet moments, the tough moments, and the joyful ones. It's also important to recognize that trust isn't static. It changes over time as people grow and circumstances evolve. The trust one had in my youth, innocent and unwavering, has transformed. It's no longer blind or naive, but it's still there, only now it's tempered with wisdom. I no longer expect people to be perfect, and I don't hold others to unrealistic standards. I've learned to accept that everyone makes mistakes, and sometimes, trust can be rebuilt, even after it's been broken. But that rebuilding takes time, effort, and a genuine commitment to making things right. It's not something that happens overnight. Despite the pain that broken trust has caused me, I've also encountered people in my later years who have restored my faith in humanity. A stranger once helped me pick up groceries I had dropped in the store, a neighbor checked in on me during a storm, and a long-lost friend reconnected with me after years apart. These small acts of kindness have reminded me that while trust can be fragile, it's not impossible to find again. In fact, sometimes it's even stronger when it's built on the foundation of mutual respect and understanding. At 70, I've come to appreciate trust as one of life's greatest gifts. It's not something to be given away carelessly, but it's also not something to be hoarded out of fear. Trust, like love, is meant to be shared, but it's also meant to be protected. It's a delicate balance, but when it's right, it can transform our relationships and enrich our lives in ways we never imagined. Trust may be complicated, but it's also beautiful. And I've learned that even though it's hard to earn and easy to lose, when it's genuine and mutual, it's worth all the time and effort it takes to build. The importance of letting go, finding peace in release. As I've grown older, one of the most profound lessons I've learned is the importance of letting go. There was a time many years ago when I held on tight to things, to people, to memories, to old regrets, even to grudges. I thought that holding on would protect me, keep me safe, or somehow preserve the past, but in reality, it only weighed me down. Now, as I look back on my life, I realize that letting go is one of the most liberating and peaceful choices I've ever made. I spent much of my younger years clinging to what I thought I needed. I held on to relationships, some of which were toxic and draining. I stayed in jobs that didn't fulfill me, simply because I feared change. I held on to mistakes I'd made in my past, not realizing that the weight of those regrets was holding me in place, preventing me from growing or moving forward. It took time, but over the years, I began to understand that holding on to everything wasn't healthy. It wasn't helping me, it was hurting me. One of the hardest things to let go of was people. There were friends, family members, and even colleagues who once held important places in my life, but over time, they faded away. Sometimes, people change, and sometimes, life simply takes us in different directions. I spent a lot of years trying to hold on to relationships that no longer served me, thinking that if I could just keep in touch, if I could just make things work, everything would be okay. But I've learned that some relationships are meant to last for a season, while others are meant to last a lifetime. And it's okay to let the ones that are no longer serving you go. I think back on some of the friendships I've lost, and while there's a certain sadness there, I also feel a sense of relief. It wasn't easy to walk away from people I had once been close to, but as I let go, I found that I had space in my life for the people who truly mattered. Letting go of those relationships freed me to invest more deeply in the ones that truly brought me joy, connection, and peace. It's not that I stopped caring about the people I left behind, but I learned to care for myself more. Sometimes, walking away from unhealthy relationships is the most loving thing you can do, for both yourself and the other person. Another thing I've had to let go of is regret. When I was younger, I carried my mistakes like a heavy bag, believing that if I just carried them long enough, I could somehow make up for them or fix them. But the older I got, the more I realized that regret is a pointless weight to carry. I began to understand that we all make mistakes, we all have things we wish we had done differently, but those mistakes don't define us. What defines us is how we move forward, how we learn from our past, and how we choose to live in the present. I've learned to forgive myself for the mistakes I made when I was younger. Some of those mistakes were big, some were small, but they all taught me something valuable. I've made peace with my past, and I've stopped trying to change things I can't change. Letting go of regret has been one of the most freeing things I've ever done. It's allowed me to embrace who I am today, without the burden of the person I used to be. The past is gone, and there's nothing I can do to alter it, but I can shape my future by letting go of the things that no longer serve me. And then there's the need to let go of the idea that I need to do it all. When I was younger, I was always busy. I thought that in order to be a good person, I had to constantly be active, always helping others, always doing something. I thought that if I was busy, I was important, I was valuable. But now I realize that sometimes the most important thing is simply to be. There's a deep peace in slowing down, in taking a step back, and in appreciating the quiet moments of life. I no longer feel the pressure to say yes to every invitation, to every request, or to every obligation. Letting go of the need to always be busy has brought me a calm I never knew I was missing. Letting go doesn't mean giving up or being passive. It means choosing what truly matters and releasing what doesn't. It's about freeing up space in your life for what's important, whether that's a moment of quiet reflection, time spent with loved ones, or simply the freedom to enjoy the beauty of the world around you. Letting go allows us to embrace life in a way that we never could when we were weighed down by the past, by things that don't serve us, and by the pressure to always be something we're not. One of the most profound aspects of letting go is the peace that comes with it. When I let go of my old regrets, of the need to please everyone, and of relationships that no longer nurtured me, I felt a shift in my soul. I felt lighter, freer, more at peace. Letting go isn't always easy. There's pain involved, there's sadness, and there's a real sense of loss. But what I've learned is that it's necessary. Sometimes, we have to let go of the old in order to make room for the new. We have to release the things that are holding us back so we can move forward with clarity, purpose, and peace. At 70, I've come to realize that life isn't about holding on to everything. It's about letting go of the things that no longer serve us, whether they're relationships, regrets, or outdated beliefs about ourselves. It's about making room for what really matters and finding peace in the release. Letting go has been one of the most powerful, life-affirming lessons I've learned, and it's something I'll carry with me for the rest of my days. The shifting nature of relationships, a journey of growth and acceptance. When I was younger, I believed that my role in life was to be the one who remembered everyone's birthday, attended every event, and kept everyone around me happy. I prided myself on being the reliable one, always present, always giving, always showing up. I thought that this was the secret to forming deep, lasting connections and to making a meaningful contribution to the world around me. In my mind, relationships were a series of gestures, attending, giving, showing up, and if you did all of these things, then surely you were fostering the most important connections of all. But over the years, I began to realize how much energy it took to maintain relationships that didn't always nurture me in return. The more I gave, the more I realized that not all relationships were equal. Not all friendships and connections were balanced. In fact, some of them were draining, exhausting, and sometimes even emotionally harmful. I would put so much into a relationship only to feel empty when I didn't receive the same in return. It took me a long time to understand that while I was busy being there for everyone else, I was neglecting myself, my needs, my peace, and my well-being. As life has gone on, I've seen how the branches of our social tree naturally shift and reshape. People move away, they get busy, and sometimes they change in ways that make it hard to stay connected. It's like a tree whose branches grow in different directions with the passage of time, and some branches simply become too far apart to ever truly reach again. I've experienced relationships end with heartbreak and others fade quietly with time. It's painful when connections that once felt so vital start to unravel, but over time, I've come to understand that this is simply part of life's journey. There was a time when I took these losses personally. I would wonder what I could have done differently, what I could have said, or how I could have tried harder to hold on. I questioned myself, thinking that perhaps if I had been better, more patient, or more understanding, these relationships might have been different. I tortured myself with what-ifs. But as I've grown older, I've come to realize that relationships are not always within our control. People come into our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, and learning to accept this truth has brought me a sense of peace. Some people are meant to be with us only for a short time, and their role is to teach us something or to share an experience. Other relationships may last longer, and some are meant to last a lifetime. But no matter how long they stay, every connection leaves its mark on us, shaping us, teaching us, and helping us grow. It's not just the people in my life who have changed, I've changed too. When I was in my 40s, I was still driven by the hustle, the need to be constantly doing something, and the idea that success was defined by how many people you could please and how much you could achieve. By the time I reached my 60s, I found that my priorities had shifted. I had experienced enough of life's twists and turns to realize that what really matters isn't the quantity of things we do or the number of people we try to please, but the quality of our relationships and the depth of our connections. I now value simplicity, kindness, and authenticity more than ever before. The drama that once seemed so important, those arguments, misunderstandings, and little conflicts, has lost its appeal. I no longer have the patience or energy for relationships that feel one-sided or draining. I used to think that being there for everyone made me a good friend, a good family member, a good person. But now I know that true relationships are reciprocal. They don't drain you, they fill you. The best relationships are the ones where both people bring something to the table, where love, support, and respect flow both ways. Some of the most profound lessons I've learned about relationships have come through heartache. I've had my trust broken by people I cared deeply about, experienced the pain of loyalty that wasn't returned, and endured the hurt of kindness that was taken for granted. Each of these experiences left scars, but they also taught me invaluable lessons. They taught me how to set boundaries, how to recognize red flags, and most importantly, how to value my own well-being. I used to think that loyalty meant always being there, no matter what. But now I understand that loyalty goes both ways. It's not about constantly giving to the point of exhaustion. It's about giving and receiving in balance. I've learned that it's okay to protect myself, to step away from relationships that no longer serve me, even if they once were an important part of my life. I've learned to say no when something doesn't feel right and to distance myself from people who take more than they give. Today, I choose to give my time and energy to people who lift me up, not those who weigh me down. I've come to understand that true connection is not about being busy or trying to meet every social expectation. It's about the people who make me feel seen, heard, and valued. It's about those moments of laughter, understanding, and shared joy. The people who truly matter are the ones who make the effort to show up for me, just as I show up for them. And yet, even with all of these lessons, I still sometimes feel a twinge of nostalgia for the connections that have faded away. A friend who once felt like a sibling, but with whom I haven't spoken in years. A family member whose life has taken a different path and left me wondering where it all went wrong. It's bittersweet to look back on these relationships. I mourn the moments we shared and the person I once was with them. But at the same time, I've come to appreciate these connections for what they were, precious moments in time that helped shape me into who I am today. As I look back on all of the relationships that have come and gone in my life, I realize that each one, whether it lasted a season or a lifetime, has left me with something valuable. And that's the beauty of relationships. Their shifting nature is a reminder that nothing in life is permanent, but everything has a purpose. It's okay to let go of the people and connections that no longer serve you, because that opens space for the ones that will. At the end of the day, it's not about the quantity of relationships, but the quality. It's about the people who truly matter, the ones who walk with you through life, who make the journey worthwhile. And when you find those people, cherish them, hold them close, and give back just as much as they give you. Prioritize quality over quantity. A life well lived in meaningful connections. When I was younger, I believed that a full life was a busy one. I thought that the more people I knew, the more events I attended, and the more I could squeeze into my calendar, the more fulfilled I would feel. I spent years rushing from one social gathering to the next, thinking that the quantity of experiences and relationships mattered most. If I had many friends and was always surrounded by people, I thought I would feel valued and connected, that my life would be rich with meaning. But as time has passed and I've grown older, I've come to realize that this belief was misguided. Now, at the age of 70, I understand that the true richness of life doesn't come from how many people we know or how busy we are. It comes from the depth of our relationships and the quality of our experiences. It's taken me years to learn that what really matters is not the number of acquaintances or events on my calendar, but the few, cherished connections that bring true joy, comfort, and meaning into my life. In my younger years, I tried to keep up with the world around me. I was always saying yes to invitations, whether it was to a party, a gathering, or even work-related events. I thought that being present at these things would somehow make me more important, more connected, or more fulfilled. It was almost as if I believed that filling up my life with as many experiences as possible would somehow create a sense of fulfillment. But as I reflect on those years, I now see how much of my time was spent at places and with people who didn't really add much to my happiness. I'd find myself in crowded rooms, surrounded by faces I barely knew, engaging in small talk that never went beyond the surface. Despite the constant activity, there was always a feeling of emptiness, a sense of longing for something deeper. As I moved into my later years, I began to notice that the things I once thought were important, attending every event, staying socially connected to as many people as possible, no longer seemed to bring me joy. In fact, I found myself growing more tired of these shallow connections and more appreciative of the quiet, meaningful relationships that brought real joy. Slowly, I began to step away from the noise of life and choose to focus on the people who truly mattered to me, the friends and family who understood me, who supported me, and whose company I genuinely enjoyed. I now realize that the number of people in your life is far less important than the quality of those relationships. The most fulfilling experiences are not the ones that are crammed with busy schedules or large groups of people. Instead, they are the ones where you can sit in silence with someone, knowing that your presence is enough, or where you can share a heartfelt conversation that goes beyond the surface. These are the moments that matter, the ones that leave you feeling nourished and connected, not exhausted and drained. I have come to cherish those simple moments, the long conversations with a friend who truly listens, the quiet walks in the park with a family member who just wants to be present, the shared laughter over a meal with people who appreciate the value of time spent together. These are the kinds of relationships that truly enrich life. They are built on trust, understanding, and a deep, mutual respect. They require time and effort, yes, but they also bring an immense sense of fulfillment and peace. The older I get, the more I've come to realize that saying no to things that don't truly add value to my life is not just okay, it's essential. There was a time when I would feel guilty for turning down invitations or for not attending events. I worried that people would think I didn't care or that I was being antisocial. But as I've grown older, I've learned that it's not only okay to say no, it's necessary for my well-being. I choose now to reserve my energy for the relationships and experiences that truly matter, the ones that bring me joy, growth, and a sense of peace. And I no longer feel the need to explain myself. I've also realized that the relationships that really count are often the quiet ones, the ones that don't require grand gestures or constant activity. It's the friend who checks in with you over a cup of coffee, just to see how you're doing, not because they need anything, but because they genuinely care. It's the neighbor who waves as they walk by, offering a simple, heartfelt greeting, reminding you that you are not alone in this world. These small, everyday connections are the ones that carry the most meaning. Looking back, I see now how much energy I spent in my younger years chasing after friendships and experiences that were not truly aligned with who I was or what I valued. I wanted to fit in, to be seen, and to feel like I was part of something bigger. But now, I realize that the most fulfilling life isn't the busiest one. It's the one where you surround yourself with people who truly care, who lift you up, and who share in the same values. It's about finding peace in the moments of quiet and stillness, not in the constant noise of social obligations. Quality, not quantity, has become my guiding principle. And I've found that it brings a sense of calm, contentment, and purpose that I never knew when I was constantly chasing the next event, the next connection, or the next social circle. Life is not about the number of people you know, but about the depth of the relationships you cultivate. So, as I move through this stage of life, I've come to embrace the simplicity of it all. I cherish the few, precious connections I have, and I focus my time and energy on experiences that truly enrich my life. I've learned that a life well lived is not one filled with endless parties and gatherings, but one rich in meaningful relationships, moments of deep connection, and experiences that touch the heart. And for that, I am truly grateful. The delicate balance of openness and protection, embracing change and vulnerability in relationships. As I grow older, I've come to understand that life is about balance. When it comes to relationships and trust, it's not always easy to find that balance. I've learned over the years that the key isn't building walls so high that no one can reach me. Rather, it's about constructing gates strong enough to keep harm out, but open enough to allow love, kindness, and connection to flow in. It's a delicate art, one that requires both wisdom and discernment. In my younger years, I was often quick to trust, sometimes without thinking, because I believed in the goodness of people. But with age and experience, I've learned that trust must be given carefully. There are moments when it's necessary to protect oneself, when certain people or situations pose a risk to our well-being. And yet, it's equally important not to shut ourselves off completely. There is so much beauty in the vulnerability that comes with allowing others into our lives. However, this openness must come with awareness, the awareness of who deserves a place in our inner circle and who doesn't. For much of my life, I viewed relationships through a simple lens: trust people, be kind, and keep your heart open. And while that approach brought me meaningful connections, it also led to heartbreak, disappointment, and moments of betrayal. I had to learn that not everyone you meet is meant to stay in your life forever, and that it's okay to let go when relationships are no longer healthy or nurturing. But at the same time, I had to learn that closing myself off entirely was not the answer either. There is an undeniable beauty in connection, in allowing others to see you for who you truly are, with all your flaws, hopes, and dreams. Vulnerability can be a source of strength, not weakness. As I reflect on my relationships, I realize that people, just like me, change over time. I am not the same person I was at 30, 40, or even 60, and neither are the people I've shared my life with. Life moves forward, and with it, our relationships evolve. Some friendships deepen, becoming more meaningful as time goes on, while others naturally fade away. The challenge is in accepting this fluidity. I used to cling to the past, holding on to old relationships that no longer served me or my growth. I wanted things to stay the same because the familiarity felt safe. But I've learned that there is peace in letting go, in allowing relationships to flow naturally without trying to control every outcome. I've learned that life's beauty often lies in its impermanence, in the ebb and flow of people and experiences that come into and out of our lives. Accepting change, in both myself and others, has been one of the most freeing lessons I've learned. I used to feel grief when relationships ended, even when they faded peacefully, as though something was being lost forever. But now, I understand that this is simply a part of life. People come into our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. Not every connection is meant to be permanent, and that's okay. What truly matters is the love and growth that each relationship brings, no matter how long it lasts. Trust is something that takes time to build but can be shattered in an instant. As I've aged, I've become much more selective about who I trust and let into my heart. I no longer give my trust freely to everyone I meet. Instead, I give it to those who have earned it, who have shown me through their actions that they are worthy of it. And while this approach has protected me from harm, it hasn't made me cynical. On the contrary, it has allowed me to form deeper, more meaningful relationships with those who truly value me. These are the people who lift me up, who respect my boundaries, and who offer the same level of trust and vulnerability in return. I've learned that trust is a gift that should not be given lightly, but when shared with the right people, it can create the most beautiful and fulfilling connections. It's not easy to find this balance between openness and protection, and it's something I continue to work on. There are still moments when I feel the urge to retreat, to shut myself off from the world to protect my heart from further hurt. But I've come to understand that true fulfillment lies in allowing myself to be open to love, even in the face of uncertainty. The key is not to be afraid of vulnerability but to be mindful of who deserves that vulnerability. I've learned that I don't have to open myself up to everyone. Instead, I can choose to give my time and energy to those who bring positivity into my life, who nurture my soul, and who treat me with the respect and kindness I deserve. At this stage in my life, I've realized that relationships are not static. They are constantly changing, just as I am. And that's okay. Change doesn't have to be a source of fear or sadness. It can be a source of growth and transformation. I've learned to embrace the fluidity of relationships, to let them evolve and shift as life does. Some people will walk beside me for a season, others for a lifetime, and some will leave my life completely. But each relationship, no matter how long it lasts, has shaped me into the person I am today. So, I continue to strive for that delicate balance of openness and protection, of allowing love in while keeping myself safe. I've learned that life is about trusting myself and my instincts. When something doesn't feel right, I trust myself enough to walk away. But when love and kindness are present, I embrace it fully, knowing that there is beauty in vulnerability and strength in allowing myself to be open to others. In the end, I've come to understand that it's not about building walls but about building gates. Gates that protect my heart from harm while still letting the good, the kind, and the loving in. And that, I believe, is the true art of living a life filled with love, peace, and connection. As I reflect on the journey of life, one thing becomes abundantly clear. The beauty of aging lies not in the years we accumulate, but in the wisdom we gain along the way. The relationships we form, the choices we make, and the way we learn to navigate the ebb and flow of life's challenges shape us into who we are. In the end, it's not the number of friends we have or the busyness of our days that bring fulfillment. It's the depth of the connections we cultivate, the peace we find in simplicity, and the courage to let go when it's time. Aging isn't about reaching the finish line. It's about embracing the present, accepting change, and finding contentment in what is. Through all the highs and lows, the love we give and receive, and the lessons we learn, we create a life rich in meaning, one moment at a time. In the quiet of the years, I've discovered that the greatest treasure lies in being fully present for the people and experiences that truly matter, trusting that everything else will fall into place as it should. And in this realization, I've found my peace.